Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a really powerful method for taking a huge, ambitious vision and turning it into actual, concrete ideas. It's a super structured process that's all about finding one single powerful idea and then amplifying it. So let's see how they did it.
So everything starts with a really clear and, let's be honest, pretty ambitious goal. This was the shared utopian vision for 2030 that guided the entire brainstorming session. This wasn't just some nice-sounding phrase. It was the North Star that every single idea was going to be measured against.
To try and make sense of all the different ways the future could go, the team used this really clever analogy. They imagined all the possibilities out there as different signals on a frequency. The big challenge wasn't just to listen to them all, but to figure out which signals were worth amplifying and which ones were just noise.
Okay, so every single idea had to pass through this filter. It was either labeled as resonance, that's an opportunity that's in harmony with their utopian vision, and it got a green dot, or it was interference, a threat or an obstacle that could mess things up, and that got a red dot. Super simple, right? But this one classification was absolutely crucial for everything that came next.
So the first phase was all about casting a wide net with a silent brainwriting session. But here's the critical part. The goal was to narrow it all down afterward. They weren't looking for 100 different ideas. They were hunting for one, just one signal that was strong enough to boost.
And believe me, the initial ideas were all over the map. In a good way. We're talking about everything from tiny drones and big shifts in global power, all the way to some really deep concerns like what they called the threat of a dumbed-down humanity. A huge range of topics.
But after looking at all the different concepts, one idea just stood out. It felt more urgent, more compelling than the rest. It wasn't really about tech or politics. It was about us, the risk to human capital. Basically, a deep concern for the human mind and heart in this age of crazy fast change. This became the signal they decided to enhance.
Okay, so they found their idea. But how did they actually transform it? Well, this is where the magic happens. They used a really fast, silent, and super collaborative process called brainwriting. This is how they took a simple concern and turned it into something with real depth.
The whole engine was driven by one simple but incredibly powerful rule. You couldn't just throw out a brand new thought. No, you had to read the idea that the person before you wrote down, and then you had to build on it, improve it, expand it. See, it's all about evolution, not just addition.
So the process itself had 5 timed rounds. With each round, you had to read the entire chain of ideas that was built so far before you could add your own piece. And you'll notice the time gets a little longer each round. That's on purpose, to give everyone more time to really digest and synthesize everything, right up to that final summary.
And the result is what makes this whole thing so fascinating. This quiet, structured process takes a simple starting point and in just a few minutes adds all these layers of depth that you just never get in a typical shouted-out brainstorm. It also kind of sidesteps the whole groupthink problem and gives everyone, especially introverts, an equal voice. It's brilliant.
So for example, one of the team members started with a pretty common concern, our over-dependence on AI. It's a great starting point for sure, but it's still a little bit general,
But look what happens after that idea went through the 5-round engine. It was totally transformed. The team added these really specific, tangible dimensions to it, like the loss of critical thinking, how it's shrinking our attention spans, and the unique problems that come from having AI right there in our pockets.
And that is a perfect example of what happened to their main idea. Risk to human capital went into this brainwriting engine as a pretty broad concern,
and it came out as this rich, multifaceted concept. The team's enhancements pinpointed these crucial needs like self-awareness, emotional regulation, and even the importance of things like financial literacy. And it wasn't all negative. They also uncovered an amazing opportunity, using tech to help with early mental health detection.
But an enhanced idea is totally useless if it just stays in the meeting room, right? So the next step, and this is maybe the most important one, was to take these refined signals and broadcast them out to the wider community so they could take action.
To do this, they built something they called the switchboard. Just think of it like a central hub or a digital town square, where these fully developed ideas were posted, and they weren't posted as final answers, but as starting points for community-wide debate and problem solving.
and the workflow is just beautifully simple. First, the final enhanced ideas get categorized one last time as a threat or an opportunity. Second, they get written up as detailed posts on the switchboard. And third, and this is the really cool part, the doors are thrown open for the wider community to jump in, talk about solutions, and even form their own project teams to make things happen.
So when you zoom out and look at this whole thing, what's the big takeaway here? Well, it's a huge lesson in collaboration. The point isn't to just generate the most ideas, it's to work together to build the best idea.
A method like this forces the team to actually listen, to synthesize, and to amplify a shared train of thought. It's all about building on each other's ideas to create something way more powerful than any one person could come up with alone. So it kind of leaves us with a question, doesn't it? What complex problem could you solve by focusing on enhancing the signal instead of just adding to the noise?